Guys, this is awesome. On the right there is GingerGM, Simon Williams. He has taught me the Dutch, the French, a little bit of King's Gambit, and a little bit of London, and a lot of how to sacrifice and play. This is crazy that it's full circle. I'm covering him doing chess boxing. Wow. I'm going to slow this down to 25% because I have to get the chess commentary good. Notice, guys, 9 minutes per person, right, for the chess, and there is no increment, no delay either. So Matthew Coldwell, also known as the Minotaur. So this the advanced variation of the French defense. This is what I'm learning. Oh my God, GingerGM is playing what he was teaching. This is what I've been learning. Wow, okay, finally, look at that. The graphic over there is finally updating. The graphic over there. So yeah, he's going to pin, or not, he's just going to put the bishop up there. So actually, Matthew Coldwell did a queen's pawn opening, and Simon Williams converted it into a French defense. Okay, that's exactly what Simon Williams was teaching. And basically, what Simon Williams says is if he plays it differently, then you turn it into a Dutch, right? So basically, I play theoretically like how Simon Williams is playing right now. I try to either play French or Dutch, and then unfortunately, sometimes I have to end up playing Sicilian. So it looks like the graphic on the right is a little bit delayed. So what they're doing over there on the left is a little bit ahead. But see, we're seeing a French defense advanced variation. The knight is up on F3, right? And Simon Williams has his knight. So Simon Williams has completed the usual French defense structure right there. There's a pawn tension right there, right? Between D and C. And so that's one potential pawn break right there. And then there's going to be another potential pawn break on F. So French defense is very positional. I'm not good at positional play, and that's why I forced myself to do French defense. So it looks like Simon Williams went ahead and did the pawn break, took on the E. So instead of worrying right now about that pawn break, Matthew Coldwell, a.k.a. the Minotaur, castled. Okay, so there we go. And look at that, exactly like I predicted. Simon Williams, I think I'm a good student of you. Simon Williams is now breaking on F right there. You see that, guys? So exactly like the GingerGM has taught, I've learned well, guys. That's a pin. You see that knight? That knight is pinned because behind it, diagonally, is the king. So that's a little knight pin. There was another chess boxing I was trying to commentate, and it was between two pretty skilled girls. That one, I felt like I was still having trouble commentating at half speed. So that's why I'm doing it at a quarter speed. So Simon Williams, actually, I do see a move. Simon Williams' light squared bishop is now passively defending that knight, right? So it's unpinning the knight from the king. So right here, that's a rook move, right? Activating the rook right there. So the rook went from F to E. Also supports the central pawn. So Simon Williams has double pawns right there. Can that knight on F take that pawn? 1, 2. No, it would not be a good idea. Let's see. He could take. The knight would take back Simon's knight. And then so there would be attack on the bishop. You would not want to take that knight because your bishop would be hanging once he takes your knight back. That bishop right there, the light squared bishop of Matthews, should not be there anymore. He should consider moving it. My opinion. Again, I'm not the good French defense player, right? But I rarely play against the French defense. So the truth is, I am probably as confused about how to play against Simon Williams right now, since I usually like playing as black, right? When you play the French defense. Okay. So there was a capture, and it looks like it was exchanging the bishop for the knight. So unfortunately, the graphics not updating, but that's what's going on. And after exchanging, it looks like there was a knight move. And what it looks like it was F right there. That F knight went and centralized, attacked the pawn on the E pawn. So this graphic is killing me. These people not updating the moves. But yeah, I know what happened. So, okay, exactly like I said. So the pawn, the B pawn is going to retake. I'm pretty sure he retakes with the B pawn. Unless he retakes with the bishop right there. Come on, update. Graphic update. Update. Come on. Yeah, so exactly. He retook with the B pawn. And then the knight goes in there. So the knight's actually attacking both the pawn and the bishop. Unfortunately, it looks like Simon Williams was actually going to lose a piece. So Simon Williams decides to defend his bishop. Notice how crammed he is, and notice his dark squared bishop is still unactivated. But then we could say the same. Look at Matthew, aka White's position. The first thing I can think of is he could probably use the queen and take that pawn. There's a pawn that's hanging. Simon Williams' most forward D pawn has no defenders. In fact, maybe as we wait for them to move, I can look really quickly to see what Matthew's qualifications are. So Matthew decides to go ahead with another pin. So he's pinning that knight because if the knight moves, that queen gets taken. So Simon Williams. Dude, this is so cool. GingerGM is doing chess boxing. Guys, if you don't follow my chess channel, it's okay. But feel free to follow my chess channel. You can see how much of a love I have for chess now. Guys, go support Chessboxing Nation, okay? This is so crazy that Simon Williams is doing chess boxing. So, Matthew Coldwell. Let's see who Matthew Coldwell is. Is he a chess player? Because he's playing okay, right? Let's see if he has a FIDE rating. FIDE is the International Chess Organization. He is rated. He's about 1,700. Okay, so he is definitely not a grandmaster. As I was checking his rating, I must have missed something. But it looks like the two bishops are now both on the D file. The knight of Matthew is still undeveloped. The knight on B, the B knight's still undeveloped. And I don't know why that pawn is still... Like, is there a tactic I'm missing? Why is he not taking that pawn? That's just there for the taking. You can get your queen into the action too. And then because that pawn's preventing the knight from developing, right? Time for boxing, guys. Guys, time for boxing. Mr. GingerGM, aka Simon Williams, I hope my chess commentary made you proud. Now, you're in my territory. Fight commentary time, all right? Boxing. Let's see if GingerGM can fight. GingerGM does have a beard, right? So maybe that's strategic. You don't know where his chin is, so you might miss his chin sometimes. All right. What I'll be looking for, of course, jabs, right? Oh, jabs, okay. Okay, GingerGM trying to parry some stuff. Okay, both trying to keep it technical. Not bad, GingerGM with the cross. Okay, GingerGM is not stepping into his cross. So, but it's okay. It's the beginning of the round. They're still testing each other. Matthew Coldwell, aka Minotaur, is thinking of going to the body. See? Ooh, GingerGM, man. You got to tuck your elbow in. Don't be taking shots to the body like that. Yeah, so unfortunately, it looks like Matthew is the better boxer. He's landed at least 6 rib shots. But, you know, oof, another lead hook to the ribs. Ooh, GingerGM, man, yeah, he's got that high guard. That's the problem. GingerGM, Black Gloves, has that high guard, so it makes it harder to protect the ribs. There it is, counter-strike. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yep. So, very competitive boxing match, even though I would give the edge to Matthew Coldwell, a.k.a. the Minotaur. So, GingerGM with some jabs. If GingerGM could just add 1 or 2 uppercuts, be really good. Because notice that Matthew, a.k.a. White Gloves, has a tendency to, like, really be looking down while he strikes, right? So, uppercut. Oh, there we go, GingerGM. GingerGM found an uppercut. It didn't land, but he's thinking of it. Nice, dude. Wow. Very impressed with both their boxing. I don't know how much boxing training they've had, but they sure box better than some of the other influencers I've seen. Ooh, GingerGM. Oh no, a knockdown. Yeah, you gotta learn that helmet block, like the helmet block where you make almost like a V, but like a very narrow V to prevent the hook from landing, because you're just taking those hooks, man. That knockdown was towards the end of the round, so we're going to continue this chess match now that Simon Williams is a little dazed. And not only is he a little dazed, but he also is tired, and he's had that psychological shock of losing a round of boxing. So let's see how his French defense, is he going to go the way of the French in a lot of wars, right? And resign or lose a lot of territory. We'll see, because White, aka Matthew, is already in the French territory here, right? If you split the board in half, we got a knight, a queen, and a bishop pressing in that's supported by a rook. Also, it looks like our man Matthew Minotaur did take that pawn that I wanted him to take for like 6 moves. So if I were Simon Williams, I've got to know that I'm in trouble. Maybe activate that rook, that A rook that's just doing nothing. Maybe activate the rook. Maybe you want to castle, although it's a little tricky to castle. I think castling's fine. So my candidate moves are either castling or getting that rook into that semi-open file. You could also potentially threaten the queen right there. That c-pawn right there, if you advance it, because it's being supported by the bishop. Yeah, Simon Williams is tired. I'm rooting for Simon Williams because I'm a French defense player, man. This is crazy, guys. Simon Williams got to test his French defense in a chess boxing match. Pawn c5 is one move. Okay, we have rook b8. Right, so that's a move. Let's see what Simon Williams does. Okay, Simon Williams decides to castle. Okay, exactly like I said. So that was the other candidate move, right? To castle. So Simon Williams castles. Short side castle, right? The beauty of this castling, why I liked it, was that rook is immediately protecting the knight. You see, it gives an extra defender for the knight, and X-raying down there, it's X-raying the castle structure of white. Guys, how do you like this? Compared to when I first attempted to commentate chess, right? I'm getting much better because that's how you learn. Sometimes you gotta realize you don't know, and then you just learn, right? I did a chess competition even last year. For those of you who didn't know, I did a chess competition. Probably do more this year. Simon Williams with a clutch castling move. His next move, I think you should get the rook out first before you attack the queen that's now hanging, right? But it is White, aka Matthew Coldwell's turn. He's got a centralized knight that's not really doing much. Get the knight developed. I think his biggest priority right now is to develop that knight. So knight c3 is what I would suggest as the move. So get that knight developed. And then once you get the knight developed, you can get your rook on the d file, right? The d file is where it looks like a lot of the action's going to happen. Now, you could potentially reposition your knight, but where would you go? Oh, you could reposition your knight, potentially get your knight to g4. Knight g4 might work because, again, his knight is pinned, right? So you're adding another attacker to that knight, because where would you go afterwards? You could try to check by then going knight h6. But all that's going to do, yes, it's going to mess up his pawn structure, but it's going to cost you a knight. Would it be worth it to mess up his... And he could also just move. He doesn't even have to mess up his pawn structure. Keep that thought in mind. Maybe there's a way after you develop more to... So I think the most immediate thing that Matthew Coldwell, aka the Minotaur, can do is to develop his knight. Once you develop your knight, get your rook out. As I'm talking about this, I noticed the pawn structure. So, okay, he decides to instead advance his pawn. So Simon Williams has a pawn island, as it's called. So 3 pawns in the center, and then an isolated pawn on the A side, so on the left side, and he's got 2 pawns. So there's 3 pawns on the king side for white. So it's 3 versus 2. So you could do what's called the minority attack on the king side later. It was 3 versus 1 on the left side, the queen side, but Matthew, aka Minotaur, just decided to use the pawn to attack the center pawn. So Simon Williams decides to attack the queen, like I recommended, right? Dude, Simon, or Teacher Williams, GM Williams, man, am I doing you proud? I am reading the board pretty well, right? I saw that move. He decides to retreat the queen a little bit. Notice the diagonal right now. He's potentially making plans for that diagonal, as in h7, the pawn to the diagonal of the castle king of Simon Williams. Is he moving? Is he repositioning his... Okay, so Simon Williams is like, I don't want to deal with that knight right now. So Simon Williams decides to go ahead with that exchange. So very likely that rook is going to go and recapture that bishop. So got to be a little careful, right? Because since the knight on B is not developed yet, now the back rank of Matthew is a little bit vulnerable. So Matthew got to be careful, man. So he's going to recapture with the rook, exactly like I predicted. So now we have 2 pieces of white in black's territory. But black has some good counterplay. He's got a pawn center, right? He's got a pawn island in the center. And he still has a rook that's not doing anything too much. And then he's got a bishop that's kind of not the most active. So Simon's position can improve. When I first started playing chess, I didn't know how to play, so I would always cram myself. And so it's like I got used to just being crammed. And then I really love practicing my knight movements. Like I have all these little visual imageries to think about how to move the knight in 3 moves and stuff. So I don't mind having close positions. But then this is not really a close position. What would you call this? Would you call this a semi-open position? Anyone that plays chess, feel free to connect with me and we can talk more chess. I can talk about chess for hours, but I don't know how many of my viewers can talk about chess for hours. I'm going to spend a lot of time editing this video too, because I love this. I love this. The guy who's inspired me the most in chess. So, okay. All right. A rook goes back because Simon Williams had that queen. You see, Simon used his queen to attack the rook. So now there's a knight outpost, and now Simon's invading. And this might spell the end for Matthew Coldwell. Notice how much time Matthew has, right? Versus Simon. So Simon is ahead. Okay, there is a potential for a checkmate. Now, there is enough defenders of that pawn. There's a bishop defending, but that bishop might get captured. And then there's a rook defending. Simon very likely is going to win the chess game if he can survive this round. So doesn't this remind you of that chess boxing match between Andrea Botez and Dina Balankaya? Belinsky? Sorry, Dina, forgot your last name. So I think Simon knows if he can survive this last round, then he's going to win the chess game. So let's see what happens, man. Go follow Chessboxing Nation. All right, here we go. Here we go. Oh my God, guys. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Go follow Chessboxing Nation. So here we go. Here we go. Yeah. Matthew is fighting like he knows he's about to lose the chess. So Simon just needs to survive. Yep. Cover up. Maybe some head movement. But, if you didn't train your head movement, you're not going to. Nice hook by Simon. Some body jabs might help a lot. So, yeah. One of these, nice uppercut by Simon. One of these body shots is going to get Simon, man. Now, obviously, No, don't. Don't rely on your bodies, like soft tissue. So, a minute left, Simon. Come on. You got this, Simon. Oh, okay, Simon hugging a little bit. You can tell he's getting a little bit. He's getting a little bit. Well, it worked out. Is that a little standing count or what's going on? What's going on here? What's going on? Oh, okay. Checking his nose a little bit. The clock's just winding down. They didn't pause the clock. Look at this. They didn't pause the clock. Wow. Wow. Guys, go follow Chessboxing Nation, okay? This was awesome. I cannot believe full circle. Simon Williams has taught me so much about chess, and I'm commentating his chess boxing match. Guys, Chessboxing Nation, you guys please go follow them. Wow. I'm so inspired. I'm so inspired to play chess. No. Oh no. I think Simon will survive this. Oof. Simon dropping that last hook hurt him, right? Simon dropped his elbow finally. Okay, guys. He's double attacking, right? He's attacking the pawn with the queen, but also attacking that bishop that's just loose there. Obviously, the bishop can move, right? The bishop can move to right above the center pawn of the castle structure. So the bishop can move to f3, and that also attacks the queen. Both of them have enough time, right? They have enough time to finish this game. So that's the thing. Especially someone like a grandmaster like Simon, he has enough time. So, exactly, Matthew does the move I suggested. Simon decides to go for the back rank, and that is checkmate. Is that checkmate? Yes, that's checkmate. No, it's not checkmate, actually. No, it's not checkmate. Okay, first you block with your rook, right? You have to block with your rook, exactly. Then you get your rook taken, then you block with your queen, exactly. So it's not checkmate yet, but no, Simon just hung his queen. Oh man, wait a minute. Simon just hung his queen. Oh, Simon just threw away a winning position. That was a blunder right there. That was a blunder. Okay, so basically what I said there, Matthew has to take this rook, right? And then that gives clearance. There's a technical term, gives clearance for the queen to come. So Matthew does block, right, with the queen. Sorry, with the rook, gets the rook taken. And then right here, the queen blocks. And then Simon, forgetting the knights here, hangs his queen. He knew he blundered. There's another thing that happens a lot. Simon didn't need to play that fast. Look how much time he has compared to how much time Matthew has. Simon should have thought about it for a second. He thought he had it. But now suddenly all the advantages in Matthew's court. Just takes one bad move and suddenly Matthew's winning. Now Simon can take his time because he needs that 6 minutes to figure out how to come back from this. Now we can go a little faster now. Okay, here we go. Matthew makes a move. Let's see what move. Probably going to develop his rook. Or use escape with the queen. Okay, yeah, that's a good move. If you go right next to, orthogonally, you go right next to a knight, the knight can't attack you next move. Simon takes the opportunity to take another pawn. Now that the knight is one square distance away from the queen, that knight takes a while to threaten the queen. So the queen's safe now. You would call it diagonal opposition. So now there's a pawn attack on the knight. So now the knight retreats. Simon still has that really good pawn center, right? The pawn island there. But that queen's going to be too strong, man. What's Simon going to do? The rook can start attacking those pawns. So the bishop gets centralized there. And now Simon attacks it with a rook. There's potential other things he's trying to do with that rook too. He might be trying to get his other rook to the F file. So he doubles his rooks. So look at that pawn move that Simon Williams just did. He prevented the bishop from retreating along that diagonal. That pawn is being protected by the other pawn. So the bishop's movement got really, really limited by Simon's clutch pawn move. So this is something I actually didn't catch in my original commentary, but great move by Simon. Okay, so there's finally a rook move, right? Attack that backward pawn. So Simon centralizes his knight to attack the pawn. He could also then reposition the knight to attack the queen next move. A pawn is backward when there's no pawns that can defend it. So now there's a queen move by Matthew. I'm just going to check the board on the left to make sure the person recording the move didn't slack a little. That backward pawn, Simon's not really doing anything to defend that backward pawn. Interesting. So you could use your rook right now. If I were Matthew, I could use my rook and just take that pawn right there, the c pawn. So let's see if Matthew sees it. Is there some tactic I'm missing? No, there's no tactic I'm missing. There, he got it. He got it. He's taken the pawn. Exactly. He's taken the pawn. So Simon pushes a pawn. So it looks like Simon's just going to try to queen. So that's what's going on. So Matthew even sees it. So can that pawn be stopped? Simon's bishop can't do anything. The rook's controlling the square that the bishop can be used to protect the pawn right now. The queen of Matthew's can just jump straight on down there. And then if Simon jumps his knight to e3, the queen can just capture the pawn. That's a passed pawn that's going to get captured. So Matthew definitely made a move. Okay, get his king into it. Smart. Even though you can just use your queen, I don't see any reason why you can't capture that passed pawn right now. So Simon also not getting his final rook into the game. Simon's just going for it, man. That rook of Simon's, man, not doing anything. Simon Williams, thank you so much for everything you've done to pique my chess interest, to give me confidence in playing the French, the Dutch. So many things. You taught me certain sacrificing moves. Okay. So, oh, he's about to get forked. He's about to get forked. Don't. Oh, you should not have used your king. Oh, man. This is why I told them. Matthew should have used his queen. Because check what's going to happen, okay? Matthew's going to grab the queen right here. And then he's got a check that's also an attack on the queen. That's a fork right there. That's a very kind of, I don't know, like 1,000 level tactic right there. So Matthew sees it too. Simon, Matthew realizes he might be done. So again, he shouldn't have gotten his queen. He should have used his own queen to block the path. There was nothing. This pawn is being guarded. These two things are guarded, so he can't get the rook in it in time. This knight is useless. So, and this is useless. Maybe he could have. The best thing Simon probably could have done was to threaten his rook right here. Instead, he decided to go gung-ho, right? He went cowboy with his own king. And unfortunately, as long as Simon sees this move, when he captures the queen, Simon forks the queen and the king that's going to be right here. So I think Matthew's lost this, man, until he can pull off a miracle. I mean, this is a check anyways, right? So, and if he decides to not go get forked, this is called a skewer. This queen is going to take his queen. So, yeah, Matthew's lost this. So Matthew goes for it. Simon's going to fork him. Simon, please see it. Yes, Simon sees it. That's a fork right there. So that's a check. And so he has to move the king because there's no piece right now that can take the knight. That's the beauty of the knight, right? It can jump over stuff. So Simon Williams has redeemed himself after blundering his own queen. Wow, guys. An emotional roller coaster game for sure, just like the boxing. So only 36 seconds left. So they got to play quick, especially Matthew. Matthew's also losing. So very likely Matthew's going to lose. And as he plays quick, he's going to make more mistakes. So Simon did capture that queen, right? And now there's a pawn move. And Simon uses that knight to exchange for the bishop that was in the center. So now Simon has doubled up his 2 rooks on the f-file. So when your rooks are doubled up, very, very powerful. So now there's a threat to the bishop, which Simon uses to relocate and check the king. So the tempo, as they call it, right? The initiative, Simon has it all. And look at his pieces closing in on the king. So Matthew takes the opportunity, grabs another pawn, but look at that rook ladder, right? They call it a ladder checkmate. So if you can ladder your way, you could probably check him. But yeah, this is not looking good. But either way, Matthew's running out of time. So it's a very good game. Very, very good game. Matthew put up a good fight and even took advantage of some blunders by Simon. But at the end of the day, the GM was just stronger in his chess. And even though he wasn't as good in his boxing, he survived the boxing rounds and ended up winning the chess. And Chessboxing Nation, seriously, anytime I'll feature you guys, and anytime you want to interview too. Anyone that plays chess, feel free to add me on chess.com too. But please go follow Chessboxing Nation, and I'll link Simon Williams' YouTube channel too. He has a chess channel. These are some of the lessons on chess.com. Let me just show you guys real quickly. Look at this. I've looked at almost every Simon Williams lesson. I guess I haven't done this one yet, but I haven't done his English defense, but I've looked at some of his gambit stuff. I haven't done his Sicilian yet, but I started playing the French defense because of this, and I actually have looked at this, but for some reason it didn't register. But I've looked at the Max Lang attack, so I honestly don't even remember this. See, Simon inspired me to play the Dutch. See, the King's Gambit. I've looked at his King's Gambit. I started his Budapest Gambit, but honestly, I don't even remember. See how much? See, I told you Simon taught me the London. So I'm telling you, Simon is my teacher. Simon is my teacher. This is crazy. See, chess moves. So a lot of sacrificing stuff. Look at how many courses he's had. Spicy Evans Gambit. Immortal games. Look at this. Checkmate patterns. This was actually really helpful. This is a really helpful one. When I first started chess, this really helped me. Okay, guys. Fight commentary breakdowns out.